Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, West, and Chris along with you on this Friday morning. Guys, I wrapped up the last hour of the Extra Point talking about embarrassing sports moments. That was spurned from Kevin Durant slipping the other night when making a pregame layup. He did actually end up spraining his knee, but like the look on his face told you that he knew that was going to become like a meme or people were going to make fun of him or something like that. I brought up my own personal embarrassing sports moment that didn't actually happen on the field. Anything from your guys' athletic careers that stands out as embarrassing to you?
Athletic career.
It doesn't. Okay, it doesn't have to be like organized athletics. It can be pick up basketball, a game of golf, something like that. Anything?
I'm waiting on Chris.
I'm actually waiting to hear Tyler. You got to remind us. I was wondering. By the way, they're showing that clip of Durant, and I was wondering if that's why.
Yes, that's why.
I called a portion of your show, finishing up some writing last hour. What was yours? Abbreviated version?
So I couldn't think of anything specifically, and I played baseball and wrestled.
Yeah.
So I can't think of anything specifically that happened to me on the field of play itself. But my freshman year of high school, playing on the freshman baseball team, we went to a McDonald's after a game, and we're 14, 15-year-old boys, right? Some of my teammates thought it'd be a good idea to go play on the playground, which like the age limit on that thing is like 7, 8 years old, right? We're clearly too old for it. Now, I'm one of those people, I don't like to break rules because I feel like I'm always the one that's going to get caught and get in trouble for it. This was a shining example of that. After a few minutes, when I realized I was the only one not on this playground, I was like, okay, fine, I'll go do it. So I climb up in the top of this thing, and no sooner do I get up there, somebody shouts, "The manager is coming," to which everybody flees, right?
Except you.
Except me. I'm up at the very top, and like my only way out is to go down this slide. So I go down the slide, and when I get to the bottom, the manager is standing there with his hands on his hips, like, "Aren't you a little old to be on the playground?" And I probably just said, "I'm sorry," or something like that. I don't remember what I said, but I looked around, and all of my teammates had made it back into the restaurant and were on the other side of the glass, pointing and laughing at me. I was the only one that got caught doing this.
Classic.
Peer pressure, man.
I just started laughing thinking about
is.
a manager coming out and just seeing a 14-year-old you.
Yeah.
Just sliding down helplessly.
Let me just say though, man, don't feel too bad. I got a feeling that happens. That probably happened quite a bit.
Wes is like, I was just in the playground the other day. No,
I mean, you're high school. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
Like when you're that, like I look back to that age.
It's something I can think back and laugh on now, but like for the days after that, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. Like nobody mentioned that, please.
Yeah, but seriously, guys, think back to when you're that age.
Oh yeah, doing dumb stuff all the time.
Like
yeah.
I thank God every day that I'm alive, based on decision making back then. Like 14-year-old male kid, like you're a moron back then.
Right.
I was trying to think if I got embarrassing ones. I do have one that's pretty bad. I was hesitant if I was going to share it, but you know what? Who cares? So my I don't know if this is my most embarrassing one, but looking back at the time, I was definitely mortified. So I played I played like multiple sports growing up, but more just like rec league. So baseball was a sport that I was only like decent at, which I played through high school. But everybody played like rec basketball, and for that level, like I was decent. Like I wasn't awful. And I loved it. Like I had a blast.
Yeah.
And I actually, so I played one game when I didn't really feel too good, but I loved playing, so I wanted to play. And we had this moment where we were just sort of going up and down. Like the game got going back and forth pretty fast. In basketball, you're sprinting back and forth a pretty good bit. And I actually kind of went on a little run where I scored like, I think it was about 6 or 8 points in a row.
Ooh.
But we had been just going back and forth, like sprinting. Well, I didn't take myself out, even though I was like dying.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, there was like a break in the action. I ended up walking like towards the huddle to the side and literally just felt my stomach drop. Like this is over, and got sick in front of everyone on the side of the court. And of course, everybody, you're a kid.
Sure.
Everybody's looking at you. I was probably, I don't know, 6th grade or something like that. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't remember what the age groups were for rec basketball, but this was pre-high school. I know that. But of course, at the time, I'm like so freaking embarrassed.
So that was your flu game?
Yeah, but it didn't.
You went on a run though.
It didn't end well.
You just exhausted yourself for your team.
Well, I should have just been like, all right, guys, I need to take a quick break here. And
See,
I'm tired of carrying.
See,
y'all.
guys,
Let
I'm
me sit
putting
down.
it all out on the court. You guys need to step up.
So
exactly.
a lot of I can't really think of a lot of specifics of mine because a lot of mine are probably just like boneheaded plays that I made. Doing different things, including probably. I mean, I still go out and play ball sometimes, just goofing off with guys, and probably just there's a bunch of them from that silly things I did or said. But I do remember in high school, I ran track early in high school, and I ran the 800 normally. And one week, my coach told me, he wanted me to try the 400, which I was not as good in. Just wasn't my thing. And I was only decent anyway at track in general. And I remember I needed some cleats for that, some track cleats. And so for some reason, I picked out these like red Nikes, and I guess I thought I was a sprinter at that point. So I got these red Nikes, and I got made fun of a lot. Like people called me Ronald McDonald and stuff. So
That's pretty good.
that was pretty embarrassing. I mean, it was a little it doesn't sound bad now. You're just like, whatever, man. People made fun of your shoes, but you remember, I mean, I don't know if any of y'all ever got your shoes made fun of. That was a tough thing back in the day.
Yeah, I remember before I knew about what brands were cool in like middle school, I remember like, man, where'd you get those shoes, man? Like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I feel like back then too, maybe the flashy different colors of shoes. Like nowadays, people wear all kinds of crazy looking shoes. Like it's a thing. But back then, maybe Chris was just before his time on having.
You were setting the trend.
I
flashy.
think people are like, number one, why do you have those? You're not a sprinter. And number two, you look silly. You can't pull that look off. And they're right on both.
Speaking of shoes, I do that actually brought this up to me. So my freshman year of baseball in high school, I'd only ever played rec league up to that point. I'd never played with spiked cleats before. I'd only ever used rubber cleats because that's what the rec league allowed. You couldn't have spiked cleats there. So I showed up to the first day of high school baseball in rubber cleats. Everybody else had spiked cleats, and my parents had already bought one pair of cleats. They weren't going to go out and buy another pair. It's like, no, you're gonna play with those this season. So I did get made fun of for my shoes as well because I was the only one in rubber cleats.
See, it's devastating.
It is tough.
It's a really tough one. Don't know if any of I think all the Gamecock football running backs generally match up in cleats.
Yeah,
there's limited options, so there's probably no infighting or
probably not
making fun of them.
Well, I mean, you're also getting supplied cleats too.
Supplied cleats.
Yeah.
So there's only so many options. Probably everybody wearing the same ones practice and games. So we're going to dive in a little bit to Gamecock running backs today. And Wes has a interesting topic that I'm pretty excited about. I have notes, Wes.
Oh, no.
I have a page of notes that can be dangerous. They're over there. I've hid them under my laptop
I probably
bag.
can't read them, so I'm not going to even look over there.
You definitely, I assure you can't read them,
So
which is part of my secret.
Let's go ahead and run to our first time out. We'll come back on the other side, jump into running back discussion as we continue on here. I want to let you know, though, about the 107.5 The Game Spring Golf Classic coming up on Friday, March the 24th at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. Give Charwood a call at 803-755-2000 to register. It is $100 a person and $400 a team. Going to have some autographed items from Gamecock athletes out there as well, and one lucky person will win season tickets to all remaining USC baseball games. Lunch will also be provided by Firehouse Subs. Don't miss your chance to be a part of the 107.5 The Game Spring Golf Classic. We'll be right back.
The 107.5 The Game Spring Golf Classic is coming Friday, March 24th at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. Call Charwood at 803-755-2000 to register. It's $100 a person, $400 a team. We'll have autographed gear from Gamecock athletes, and one person will win season tickets to all remaining USC baseball games. Lunch provided by Firehouse Subs. The 107.5 The Game Spring Classic, Friday, March 24th. Call Charwood at 803-755-2000 to register. From your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
This is Damon Amendolara with your CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Well, this is going to be real awkward if Aaron Rodgers doesn't say yes to the Jets. Sauce Gardner and Breece Hall are making s'mores around a fire like Lord of the Flies, trying to will Rodgers to New York. And if it doesn't work out, well, there's a real sheepish Mike White and Zach Wilson hanging out over there in the corner, wondering if they're going to get picked for kickball later. This is Damon Amendolara. CBS Sports Radio. This March, take your first shot at college hoops with FanDuel Sportsbook and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 on the bracket and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you could spend betting everything from the money line to point spreads to that 5 versus 12 seed matchup you've been eyeing. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. There's no better place to bet the tournament than FanDuel Sportsbook. Sign up today by going to FanDuel.com/win and make every moment more with FanDuel all tournament long.
Must be present in state where lawful to wager. 21 plus in select states. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable sportsbook bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. FanDuel is offering sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, Virginia. 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 Arizona. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. 1-800-522-4700 or visit KSGamblingHelp.com Kansas. 1-877-7770 Stop Louisiana. Visit MDGamblingHelp.org in Maryland. 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. 1-800-522-4700 Wyoming or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net West Virginia.
It's Savings Madness, baby, at Galliana Chrysler Jeep on Greystone. We'll triple the bonus cash, up to $6,000 on any new Chrysler or Jeep. Seek a three-pointer and get up to an additional $2,500 off. And exclusive of that offer, lease a 2022 Jeep Compass with zero down, just $379 per month. Or finance a new Jeep Compass at 2.9 APR for 60 months. Plus, get $3,500 off. Lease a new Grand Cherokee, Wrangler, or Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid and get $10,000 off. Gotta go to Galliana. It's Savings Madness, baby. We'll triple the bonus cash, up to $6,000 on any new Chrysler or Jeep. Drain a 3 and save up to $2,500 more. Jeep Celebration Event at Galliana Chrysler Jeep on Greystone. I-126 Zoo Exit in Columbia. Call 779-7300 or GallianaSC.com. Company stock number 29165. 42 month lease, zero down plus tax and tag due at sign. Includes $225 closing fee, no security deposit. $17.92 per $1,000 for 60 months at 2.9 APR with zero down. Subject to lender approval. Offers don't combine. Expires with that.
Bill Gunner here for AAA Heating and Air. They were out at my house recently installing my brand new system, and I couldn't be more pleased with it. I'm telling you what, AAA Heating and Air, with their experienced professional technicians, I have taken care of my family, and they'll do the same for you. Right now, 0% financing, a $1,500 buyback, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty. Contact AAA Heating and Air today, 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
If you're thinking about retiring soon, be sure to tune in to Save Your Retirement with Pat Struby of Preservation Specialists, Sunday mornings at 10. Join Pat as he talks about the latest trends and headlines that could impact your retirement. Listen Sunday mornings at 10 to Save Your Retirement with Pat Struby. Securities offered through Arcadios Capital Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Arcadios Wealth. Preservation Specialists and Arcadios are not affiliated through any ownership.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Josh, quote, "After walking around my whole life being a mouth breather, I was excited to try Navage. I read the directions carefully, pressed the button, and oh my gosh, what a sensation. So much mucus, so much crud, but oh sweet, merciful air I can finally breathe you through my nose. Never have I ever taken such an amazing breath in my life. This is a life changer," unquote. He's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game.
A great selection of new Chevys is available now at Herndon Chevrolet. The lot is packed with inventory and more is on the way. So shop your hometown Chevy dealer today.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour.
Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks.
107.5 The Game.
And back on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, West, and Chris along with you. Yesterday we dove into the quarterback position where you have a wealth of depth there. And obviously we know Spencer Rattler is going to be the start of this upcoming fall. But looking at the running back position, it's kind of the opposite story. You have Juju McDowell returning. You have Mario Anderson coming in from D2 Newberry. But as far as scholarship guys go, that's all you have right now.
Yeah, it is a completely different picture in just about every way than quarterback. You don't really know who your established starter is. Probably even going into spring, going out of spring, even if you project it all the way forward to the season, you're just not sure. There's not a returner that is, say, a 2-year starter. You've got a guy in Juju McDowell that's got some experience at South Carolina, who has starter capability, but he has a unique skill set that limited sounds like a bad word, so let's not use that, but it's a unique skill set. He's not someone that when you get into third downs and you need somebody to come in and block, a Georgia linebacker, you're going to say, I feel great about this.
Right.
He's not someone that is going to carry the ball and be your workhorse 25 times a game. It's just a different situation. Then you've got a question with Mario Anderson because he was phenomenal at Newberry, but it's fair to ask the question, okay, will that translate? It's probably fair to expect that he won't have as much production as he did at Newberry, but the staff does feel that some of those traits, carry over. And you just look at what you lost there. So last season, out of the top 5 rushers from last year in terms of attempts, you lose 3 of those guys. Marshawn Lloyd was your top one. Jaheim Bell was your second. He's actually tied with Spencer Rattler if you count Rattler's attempts. But he was your second leading ball carrier in terms of attempts. And then CBS, who was limited most of the year, was number 5. Right? So you lose all 3 of those guys. One of those was Rattler, and those stats are skewed because I think that's counting in probably sacks. So really that leaves you with Juju out of your returning guys. Dante Miller, as we've reported, has a waiver out. And we'll see what happens there. And that would be honestly, probably pretty significant if you could get him back for another year.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dante could probably help this team.
Yeah.
And we actually heard some really good feedback on Dante. I was going to say this time last year, but it would have been last summer, actually. But, I think that's a guy that kind of was behind a bunch of other players this year, but now it's sort of opened up in front of him. We'll see what happens there, but maybe an under-the-radar thing to keep an eye on. And, Chris, I don't really see necessarily the kind of Jaheim Bell, just sort of wild card, not wildcat, but wild card option. We saw them sort of say, all right, what gets the best 11? Who's the next best person? And they said, look, we're just going to play Jaheim Bell at running back. I know fans can debate the merits of that. Me personally, I thought for what they were looking for, which was like a big-bodied back who could go play in the SEC and be an every down back, I honestly thought he was the next best option behind Marshawn Lloyd. I thought that was completely the correct decision when they did that last year. So you don't have that sort of extra option, which means, and we'll tie this all together. My question of the day was basically, give me your most creative position switch or your best position switch for this coming team. And, you and I asked Beamer about position swaps, changes going into the spring. And he basically said, no, not yet. There's nothing that's set in stone. But he did mention a lot of what they did last year with the running game didn't necessarily involve moving a guy to running back. But we did see them after they had injuries at the position. They started to get Leggett more involved in the running game. I thought he was fantastic on some reverses. They got Juice Wells a little bit more involved. It sounds like that will be a big part of what they do this year. And, guys, I thought that in some ways, like I think they obviously would have liked to have had a healthy Marshawn Lloyd, but in some ways that forced them to be a little bit more dynamic in what they called in the running game. In some weird way, it actually kind of helped them. That's how they decided to put Nate Atkins in the backfield as a personal protector as well. Forcing them to get creative helped in some ways, and it sounds like from what Beamer told us, that's going to be something they highly consider going into this year as well, particularly if nobody steps up and just takes that position, which, I think, Chris, is going to be determined by how does how do the guys look in the spring? Who can they get in the transfer portal after the spring? Lots of factors involved there.
Yeah, and it was interesting because, I know you and I talked about this on our podcast the other day. The identity of this team kind of shifted. Beginning of last season, the thought was, okay, you got Spencer Rattler, some receivers, you're going to air it out. As it turned out, the beginning part of the season, it was more of, well, this team looks a lot better when they can just give Marshawn Lloyd the ball, run the football. Then that kind of got derailed for a variety of reasons. And what USC ended up settling on, you always think back to the Tennessee and the Clemson game, right? You did become more of a pass-first team. Part of that was necessity. Marshawn Lloyd missed the Tennessee game. You didn't run the ball very well against Clemson at all anyway. So you end up finding some success in the passing game. You're scaling it back. You're using Nate Atkins, how you outlined, Wes. So those were good things. But here's what we do know. You can't count on that again this year. You do need to be able to line up at times and run the football. And so obviously health is going to play into that. But there are a lot of personnel questions on this team. And so when you think about getting creative this year, how do you accomplish that? And so using Leggett, using Juice Wells in the run game, or using them as kind of an extension of the run game on sweeps, that's something you may see. What else do we see, that kind of gets more creative? Again, you need to be able to line up, hand the ball to a running back, and run the football in some form or fashion. Is that going to be their bread and butter? I wouldn't think so, because that wouldn't be very smart given what we know and what they have right now.
So if they don't mess around with position switches throughout the spring, and you're just going with McDowell and Mario Anderson, especially with this spring, Dow Loggins coming in, trying to set his offensive system for this upcoming fall, how much of an effect does that have when you don't have a full fleshed out running back room just yet?
I mean, I think it's a huge effect. I think it in some ways, guys, it even kind of affects how you can practice. Just mechanically, like logistically, as far as having enough guys to be able to split your teams. They like to do quite a bit of, the stuff where you'll have two teams going at once, kind of back to back, going to opposite directions. And, I think that's where you start talking about, you can pull up the roster for the spring, Nathan Harris Waynick, DJ Twitty, Bradley Dunn, Chase McCracken, Hilton Head kid who came in as a preferred walk-on and redshirted last year. They do have enough numbers, I think, looking at the roster to be able to practice to where I think you're fine there. But, I think where your concern is going into next season, now you do add DJ Braswell, more and more, you're saying, okay, one, you wish he was already here to go through spring practice. Two, you're saying he's maybe going to have to play, at least the way things look right now. But even if Mario Anderson emerges and has a great spring, which I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. Like, I think he could be a really good player, potentially for South Carolina. But even then, we know how often running backs get dinged up. Even if you avoid the big injuries, like, not to speak it into existence, but it's just one of those things. Your running backs get dinged up because they take so much physicality. They take on so much physicality. So you almost, even if Anderson were to just emerge, you'd be very happy with that if you're Carolina staff. You got to be thinking, who's next? Who's after that? Again, Juju's going to play a role, but I'm thinking more along the lines of a guy who can take that, 15, 16, 17 carry day in the SEC.
I can't think and maybe y'all can. I can't think of a season in the last, I don't know,
century,
10 years ever since I've been covering it. I cannot think of one in which you're going, man, South Carolina just had a healthy slate of backs all year. Like something happens inevitably, even if it's your starters banged up, limited, or missing one game. A lot of times it's a lot more than that. You know, I mean, the year that Brandon Wilds, I think, started as the 4th or 5th string running back, and now he's out there playing against Clemson late in the season. Stuff like that happens. And so, you know, you're going into a situation where not only is your kind of starting situation unsettled, but your practice can be affected, as you said, Wes, because you just don't have a ton of depth. And when you get kind of into the grind of the season, which will be a difficult one, South Carolina's schedule every year going to be tough, then that can make for an unsettling situation, certainly.
Keep this conversation going about the running backs on the other side. As we head into this break, though, have a pair of tickets to Saturday's baseball game against Bethune-Cookman out at Founders Park. Be caller number 5 at 803-404-6100. Win yourself that pair of tickets. We'll be right back. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs.
Gamecocks baseball all season long on the game.
The Gamecocks take on Bethune-Cookman Friday, 6:45 p.m. pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch.
Gamecocks baseball on your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
South Carolina weather can be a little crazy. Make sure your biggest investment is protected. Call the guys in the powder blue trucks, the Guttermen. They have been providing top-notch service throughout the Midlands for over 40 years. Call the Guttermen today at 791-7147. That's 791-7147.
We keep the clutter out of your gutter. Call on the Guttermen.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the biggest brands at 90% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but 90% cheaper. It's the same medication you get from your doctor, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
We get tested regularly to know our HIV status. Teenagers and adults can get tested at least once a year as part of routine health care. People at higher risk for HIV should get tested each year. HIV testing is confidential and convenient. If you are at risk for HIV, ask your healthcare provider for HIV testing or schedule an appointment. Call 1-855-472-3432 to schedule an appointment today.
Sponsored by SCD Heck.
This is Larry Leitner, owner and founder of Midstate Roofing. And for nearly 30 years, we've continued to be the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. Midstate Roofing's proven history is your assurance that our professionals at Midstate Roofing will provide the proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility in a manner both safe and pleasing to your operation. From high-rise to hospitals, manufacturing to industrial, Midstate Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that will keep your operation dry and running long into the future. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And this is Blake Leitner, reminding you to protect that roof with a maintenance contract. Call me today at 803-356-1919 or online at midstateroofing.com. That's midstateroofing.com.
You'll speak to an on-call technician after hours or a Midstate Roofing staff member during hours at 803-356-1919 or online at midstateroofing.com. And as always, tell them Midstate Twins.
If you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Just how does a car repair shop last in business for over 50 years like Suddeth Automotive? By providing affordable, reliable, and honest auto repair. But if you ask them, they'll tell you it's their loyal customers who come back time and time again to entrust them with their car repairs. Well-trained technicians, service packages, and monthly specials. Isn't it time you became a customer? Give them a call or come by at 1410 North Millwood Avenue or make an appointment at SuddethAuto.com.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour
With Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head.
on your home of the Gamecocks.
107.5 The Game.
And welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Now, I was talking about this spring golf classic coming up in a couple weeks, and lunch for that would be provided by Firehouse Subs. Now, you don't have to wait 2 weeks to enjoy some Firehouse Subs. In fact, you can enjoy the sub of the day today.
You could go right now to firehousesubs.com, or you could go download the app, Firehouse Subs. Hit that rapid rescue. That's the best way to do it. You can send in your order, and then you can pick it up very quickly, very efficiently. You could get the sub of the day, which is, Chris has told me, the Jamaican jerk chicken, or you can get whatever else you want. Personally prefer the meatball with pepperoni, turkey bacon ranch, sub on a club. I have about 5 favorites that I'm working off of, Chris.
Yeah, you could just keep going.
My original
Like
favorite
this,
is roast
this.
beef. Add some oil and vinegar on there. They're all good, but point being, you got choices. Get what you want, and just hit that rapid rescue. It's very, very easy, and I promise you, if you're in the Columbia area, Chris, there is a Firehouse Subs near you, pretty much wherever you are, because there are 14
There's
locations
14 of them
in the
just
Midlands?
in the Midlands. Yep.
Very efficient.
So getting back to our conversation about running backs and the limited number that you're going to have through the spring, I think it's pretty much a given you're going to be looking at the transfer portal in this once spring ends as you're going into summer to try and fill that room up a little bit more. What types of backs are you think they need to bring in? Is there any names that potentially stick out to you as guys that could possibly be available?
All backs, I think. Good backs.
Yes.
Fast backs. Strong backs. Any back that can help you, I think. I don't think there's any names yet because we're in this weird time period where the window is not open right now unless you're a grad transfer. South Carolina, there is a grad transfer O-line out there that reportedly got offered by South Carolina yesterday. So it does still happen. You do still have some offers, some guys entering the portal right now because if they are grad transfers, thanks to Chris over here, he told me this rule. If you're a grad transfer, you can enter the portal pretty much whenever you want, I guess. But so there's this kid, Cameron Johnson. But for the most part, you're not seeing guys enter the portal right now. So you're kind of wait and see. Again, Cameron Johnson, an offensive lineman, but Carolina has said, Chris, they're not going to turn down great players if they can help out of the portal. However, I think everything we've heard sort of points to running back and that edge position as being the 2 spots to keep an eye on. Maybe a DB if the right guy came along, or if a superstar comes along and is just maybe from your state or there's a prior connection, of course you're gonna take them. But from a roster management standpoint, those are really the 2 spots I think you look at, and it's just hard to know. Like I've had some friends kind of ask me, like off the record, like, hey, do you think we can fill those roles in the transfer portal? And my answer has just been, how do you even answer that right now? Like you don't know who's going to be in the portal. I know there's buzz, there's rumblings about stuff like that.
Yeah.
But most of these players have either not gone through spring practice yet for their current teams, or they're about to go through spring practice or have just started it, I should say. So, how do you even answer that at this point?
You don't. The best answer you can give is, will South Carolina add a portal running back? And we can almost definitely say yes, because they almost have to add somebody, and that kind of sounds negative. It's really not. It's just being smart and trying to be resourceful. I can't imagine South Carolina standing pat. I mean, it seems like there will be somebody that goes into the portal that, at the minimum, you take a flyer on, whether that's a guy that, used to be highly rated and kind of hasn't had the career he envisioned for whatever reason at the school he's at, or a guy from a lower level like a Mario Anderson that South Carolina's had some success like that. You bring another guy like that up. It's going to be hard to pluck a super established running back from a place where, I mean, you're not going to get a guy who's like, I'm the starter at Alabama. I think I'm going to leave. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, and we've seen Shane Beamer not be afraid to dip down into the FCS level, into the Division II level, like with Mario Anderson. So, that might be the place you end up looking, where you maybe have a star guy at an FCS school that you say, hey, you come here, you could be our number one guy this fall.
Yeah, I mean, some guys want to bet on themselves. Juice Wells did that. It's worked out phenomenally for him. Or a Mario Anderson, who's a kid from the state of South Carolina who has done about all he could at that level. Now you step up a level and try to improve your own stock. It's obviously wide open at running back for South Carolina, to where it's not even a question as to whether or not Mario Anderson's going to have a shot to play a good bit this season. He absolutely does. So going back to the question of, just what type of back, who it may be, we really don't know. I mean, you can look back the last portal window, the last round of visits, around the time that South Carolina did get a commitment from Mario Anderson. They had offered Dominic Richardson, who was an Oklahoma State transfer, got him in on an official visit. We were tracking it pretty closely, Wes. Looked like they might get him. As it turns out, I think he's from Texas originally. He ends up committing to Baylor, so that makes sense. He was about 6'1", 200 or so, but kind of played even more physical than that would indicate. I do think the one thing we can probably say is that you would probably think it's more of a bigger type back. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a Mario Anderson or a Kevin Harris type back, but it probably means not a scat back type, right? You're going to want somebody that's comparable in size to a Mario Anderson or a Marshawn Lloyd, but those two guys have very different skill sets. So it's probably just about best available and trying to get somebody who has some traits you like or has some proven production from the past.
Yeah, Dylan Johnson, the other transfer they heavily pursued, he's a bigger guy as well. I think in the 6 foot, 215, 220 range. But I'll use the phrase you just used, man. That's where my head went, was best available. I mean, I don't think you're going to go necessarily get a scat back. However, if a really good one just popped up, then I don't know if you could completely rule that out either. I think it's all about finding best available. And I'll be honest, y'all, I think it's going to be a little bit harder to find that in this window than it would have in the prior window, because now, there are guys that are just inherently, for whatever reason, unhappy where they're at right now. And you see those guys kind of leave at the end of the season. And, then they hit the portal, they find their new home, and they go through spring. Well, pretty much, I don't want to say all of them, a lot of the guys who are going to transfer out right now will be guys that were in a situation where they were not going to play at their current school. And so for me, I think there are some dangers in taking, these former blue chip guys who just have not impacted at all at their current school, because a lot of times there is a reason for that happening. Now, maybe you catch lightning in a bottle. Maybe it's a guy who's just really good, but has been behind, 3 great players. Like, that does happen. But for positions other than quarterback, especially the closer you get to the actual season, I think your chances of finding that guy who just comes in and is a superstar for you continues to diminish. I will say this: Carolina has a great story to tell. They got Spencer Rattler back. They got Juice Wells back. They have momentum as a program. They finished the year on a high note with the offense. There is a great story to tell, a big-time back to come in and sort of join up with those guys. But that guy has to actually exist.
Right.
I think people forget we live in reality. Like, this is not a video game.
Sure.
The guy has to actually be out there and exist in the real world.
Right. And for whoever that may be, I feel like the selling point that South Carolina can come at them with is, look, we're super thin at this position. Again, if you come here, you're going to get your shot to be our number one guy, or at least see significant playing time. So that, again, these people have to exist first. But I feel like that's maybe a little bit easier to sell than some of these other programs that do have a full running back room already.
And I think it begs the question of, like, and it's one that I don't think we can answer. Is the starter at running back this season on the roster or not? And I don't think we know the answer to that. I mean, we may get through spring, as Wes said earlier, and Mario Anderson may have a great spring, and maybe you come out feeling better about the position. That should be the goal, right? If the coaching staff exits the spring and they say, we feel better than we did coming in about the running game because everybody's healthy, that's a huge key. That's the number one goal, especially at a position like that. But hey, Juju grew his game. He took a leap. We feel really good about Mario Anderson. Those would be great things. But even if that's the case, you're still not going to exit the spring and say, we feel great about this, because you're still going to have some depth issues. You're still going to want to bring in another guy because of the reasons we outlined earlier. You're probably going to get banged up. You need more than two, probably need more than three backs that you feel like you can throw in there and count on, and they just don't have that right now. So then where that takes you is get to May 1st, get to that portal window, and then see who you can add. Maybe you're adding a depth guy. If that's the case, good. Maybe you're catching that lightning in a bottle and you're getting a guy who you almost immediately feel like, hey, this guy's probably got a really good chance of being our starter.
Come back on the other side, wrap up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
107.5 The Game on demand podcast menu.
Sponsored by Lexington Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
If you're dealing with injuries or pain, our team is here to get you better sooner.
On the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
At the Windermere Golf Club, they believe sports can change lives. So they've designed an after-school golf program that teaches the fundamentals, integrity, and work ethic that makes golf a game kids can play for life. Team Windermere is a junior golf academy for beginners and intermediate golfers ages 5 to 17 that offers an after-school clinic and play series designed to introduce and advance young players in the lifetime sport of golf. You'll practice and play on a driving range, putting greens, and a Pete Dye designed golf course. Visit foretomorrow.com to learn more.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Tara, quote, "My doctor wanted me to do saline rinses for my allergies, but I've never been able to successfully use a neti pot. Navage uses suction power, so it's foolproof. There are nights when I'll have particularly bothersome allergies. I'll bust it out, and the results are immediate. It's such a relief. It's become a lifesaver," unquote. She's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
United Way of the Midlands is hosting its inaugural Books and Brackets College Basketball Challenge for as little as a $10 donation. You'll play for good and feel good, knowing proceeds support childhood literacy through the Midlands Reading Consortium and the Asia Wilson Foundation. Grand prizes include a Rolex watch or a 2023 Buick Envision, and other prizes ranging from a Dell laptop to a number of gift cards. Submit your bracket today at uway.org/BNB. It's the United Way Books and Brackets Basketball Challenge.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game.
Discover Herndon Certified. Herndon Chevrolet's premier used car warranty. Shop with complete confidence knowing Herndon Chevrolet has got you covered.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour.
Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks.
107.5 The Game.
Welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Head on out to the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100. And this goes back to what you guys were mentioning about the potential for there being good backs maybe buried on the roster somewhere else. Ted and Lexington brings up Kenny Irons, who had one season at Carolina, didn't produce a whole lot, and then went to Auburn and ended up kind of becoming a superstar. So that obviously didn't work out in the favor of South Carolina. That's just one example of how those things can happen.
Yeah, well, and I think Kenny got caught up in some recruiting promises to Demetrius Summers.
Yeah,
from what I remember.
Yeah.
Unfortunate situation for Carolina. That was an intra SEC transfer before they were cool.
Yeah, you did not see that a lot then.
So he would have had to sit out the year at Auburn.
I think
at Auburn,
if I remember correctly, he sat out a year, waited for the South Carolina game, and then rushed for all 1,000 yards against the game. That's what I remember. I don't know.
I remember him and Jasper Brinkley having some good goal line meetings in one game.
Carolina had a talented backfield. If they could have managed it.
Yeah, that was the key, managing it.
Yes.
Let me tell you guys real quick about Amy Mason Cup State Farm. If you look outside, y'all, it does not look like spring or boat season, but it is actually when this goes away. But at least we're washing the pollen away. You can wash it off your boat. Boat insurance is hopping right now. It's a thing. You need it if you have a boat in the water. And to get your boat insurance or any kind of insurance, auto, home, business, boat, renter's insurance, life insurance, make sure you call the fine folks at Amy Mason Cup State Farm. South Carolina native, local agent. She and her team can give you a personalized quote to meet your needs and help you save. And then when you're in the car, download the Drive Safe and Save app from State Farm, up to 30% savings. Her office is at 612 St. Andrews Road, Suite 4 in Columbia. You can visit her website, amymasoncup.com. That's Amy Mason Cup, MASINCUPP.com, or give her a call at 803-772-5554. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. So do we have, Wes, some ideas? We talked earlier about giving the ball a little bit more to some receivers, some sweeps, getting a little creative. But I know you had discussed our most creative position changes. Now, are we sticking just with running back, or are we going with anything?
No. This is like you're playing NCAA, the video. Like this is
a creative player. Not creative player, but
yeah, you can do both sides. You could be like, all right, this is something Carolina really should do.
Okay.
Or this can even be just like in an alternate reality. This would never happen in real life, but I would do this.
Yeah, like a fantasy game plan.
Yeah, like, all right, I'm moving Nicky Manwari to running back. That's never going to happen, but he could do it. I promise you. He'd be a great running back.
That would be awesome.
For speed alone.
Like Brandon,
speed and size.
Like Brandon Jacobs, like get him up to like 250. Brandon Jacobs is like 6'4" at 260. You just pack on even more weight to Nick, let him go.
Yeah, he could 100% do it. So that's my like completely outside the box one. But that would never actually happen. Although, I've been dreaming of just moving Nick to like 5 positions. So,
yeah, he is going to have to play one with some like.
Nah, he can play
switches.
at least 2.
Yeah, at the same time.
All right, what do you got over there? You got a long list.
Mine are actually, I kind of went more realistic, and I'm not
Okay.
going to list all of them. So here's one I came up with. I actually do not have anybody moving to running back on this list, which is a problem.
You did not understand the assignment.
Yeah, well, these are my more realistic ones.
Okay.
So my dream one, I will co-sign with you in having Nick Emanwari going to running back.
Okay.
I'm there.
All right. Cool.
Now, couple realistic ones. So a guy who's not on campus. I think I texted you this one the other day. Cam Sandlin, who will be a tight end. I kind of am a little intrigued by running back for him.
And maybe said you weren't moving anybody to running back.
Well, I just kind of
on the fly.
On the fly.
Okay.
Because it's a kid who's a high school quarterback.
Yeah,
He is a bigger kid. What is he? 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", 230-ish, something like that. But he's got some natural kind of movement skills. So I like that one. Here's another one I jotted down, and then I'll shut up and let y'all go. Trey Jones into the Nate Adkins role. Is that a little bit more of a pipe dreamy-esque one?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I actually have Joshua Simon in the Nate Atkins role.
So the backfield stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Trey can be the fullback like he did 2 seasons ago.
I like Trey as a personal protector type role, though.
I think
send
you
your
gotta have
blitzing
a little
linebacker
bit
at Trey
more-
Jones. Versatility.
You got to have a little bit more just open field movement ability.
You didn't see Trey run that 2-yard play action pass?
I did. I mean, I wouldn't say this to his face, but do you have any, Tyler?
Yeah, I thought of and he's new, obviously, but Umeozulu moving from edge to tight end. I mean, he's 6'6". Seems to be pretty athletic. I think that could work.
Yeah, he could do it. I think he may be the starting edge right now. The way that position looks, but certainly a guy who's athletic enough, I think, could do a number of things for you. I was trying to think of guys you could move to the edge spot.
I wrote down 6 guys.
Who you got?
Who do you think the first one is?
Is it Nick Harbor?
It's Nick Emanwari.
Oh, well.
Because I was thinking about high school. I'm not saying do that, but he could. Again, it's like any position, quarterback. Could he do it? Yes, he could.
Be 11 on 11.
His high school coach, Aaron
Emanwari.
Brand, down there at Irmo, was telling me about that before he got to campus. He was like, oh, he could 100%. If he wanted to put weight on him, put his hand down, he could do that. He's like, he even said, like, that might be his future. So him, Pup Howard, 6'4", 240, physical guy. He could do it. Elijah Davis. Remember Elijah Davis's clips, like playing middle linebacker?
Mhm.
He can move. If you slimmed him down a little bit, he could be like a Tonka Hemingway-esque edge player. Jerron Willis, who played it in high school, undersized in a relative sense, but he could play it. And I even wrote down Maurice Brown, who's a really promising walk-on freshman who's at tight end right now. He could do it. Connor Cox is another one I wrote down. I just look for guys with size and traits.
Yeah. By the way, I did notice in the newest spring roster, Elijah now listed 283. At one point, he was listed 260 something, I think. So certainly much more along the lines of where they want to play him defensive tackle. But Chris, so I think along the lines of how you have to create things in the running game by being creative, I like where you're headed with the edge spot. I'm going to play Tonka at the edge opposite of Strawn on early downs. And then when I get into pass rush situations, I'm sliding Tonka inside. I'm bringing Emanwari up to play linebacker. And then I'm putting, you'd have to see it in practice, but whichever guys end up being best at rushing the passer. I thought of Jerron Willis. I know you mentioned him. I thought of Bam Martin Scott. I think he could do some things in the pass rush game. I'm finding who are my 2 true best pass rush outside guys, even if they're not actually edge designations on the roster. And I'm just putting as much athleticism in my nickel and dime looks as I possibly could.
The other one, Donovan Westmoreland.
Yes, and that's something they've already, you
already-
see it in the article. That's something they've already done, at least in practice a bit. Something else to the offensive side, I'm not putting DeCarrion Joyner through another position change, but I would be leaning heavily on putting him in the backfield alongside of Spencer Rattler. That's something that is in their package. We've seen them sort of mess around with putting him back there, then shifting him over, snapping the football to him, making him do a pirouette against Vandy on that big trick play they hit. But I think continuing the way DeCarrion ran the ball late last season when he really looked healthy and explosive and, made some plays for them, I think you have to look at getting him the ball some different ways in the running game as well. Trying to think if I had any others. I think that was my main ones.
I got one more as we wrap up here from the Firehouse Subs text line. Jordan says Stone Blanton at either fullback or tight end in the heavy packages. I could see that.
I'm down.
Yeah, I could see him in the backfield. I think your regular tight end stuff, like they have several guys that are going to be really good at those spots, but certainly, your heavies, putting him in the backfield as a fullback, doing some different things like that. I think you could get creative with it.
I feel like he could get you a yard on the goal line.
Yeah, no doubt. And that, there will be opportunities. Beamer told us they are constantly kind of looking at what possibilities might exist to get guys on the field, whether that is trying to create more depth or whether that is just a guy really isn't working out at his current spot, finding a way to maybe he has an opportunity to affect this team.
That'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Back same time, same place on Monday. Halftime show with Jay and Terry coming up next, 107.5 The Game.